Trust isn't built when life is easy. It's revealed when everything falls apart. If you've ever been on the edge of a decision, not knowing what's next, then you've felt the weight of Proverbs. If this is already speaking to something inside, you go ahead and like this video, drop a comment about your own experience with trusting God. And don't forget to subscribe. It helps more people find hope through the Word. You see, trusting in God isn't some vague, soft idea. It's not crossing your fingers and wishing. It's radical. It means letting go of your need to control, your obsession with answers, your plan B, C, and D. It means walking even when you don't see the road ahead. Picture this: a woman named Claire. She was the planner in the family. Spreadsheets, calendars, everything color-coded. Her husband lost his job. Then came the medical bills. Then came the letter. Their house was being repossessed. Everything she had built, everything she had structured and mapped out was unraveling. Claire cried out to God, but not with fancy words, with frustration, fear, and full honesty. "I don't get it, Lord. I did everything right. Where are you?" That's the very moment where Proverbs 3:5-6 becomes real. Not in theory, in sweat, in tears, in broken plans. Trusting in the Lord with all your heart means giving up the illusion that you can fix it all. Claire started doing something that felt unnatural to her. She stopped trying to solve every detail. Every morning, she'd open her hands and say out loud, "Today is yours. I'll do my part, but I won't lean on my own understanding." And slowly, the peace came. Not because everything changed overnight, but because she did. When you trust God with all your heart, you re-saying, "I choose to believe you are still good, even when life doesn't feel good." That is not easy faith. That is deep, soul-level surrender. And it's not something you do once. It's a daily decision. Sometimes, a minute-by-minute one. So what does it look like to stop leaning on your own understanding? It means stopping the mental spiral that says, "If I don't make this happen, I'll fail." It means letting go of control even when your instincts scream to take the wheel. It means stepping back when you want to force the outcome and stepping up only when God leads. Let's talk about Ryan. He had spent years chasing a promotion at his job. Long hours, missed birthdays, pressure that never stopped. Then, one day, it went to someone else, someone less experienced. He was devastated. Angry, he told his small group, "I feel like God is punishing me for something." But one of the older guys in the group leaned forward and said, "Maybe it's not punishment. Maybe it's redirection." Ryan wrestled with that, but slowly something started shifting. He stopped seeing the missed promotion as failure and started asking, "What is God protecting me from?" That question changed his life. Months later, he took a different job, one with less money but more purpose. Less prestige but more time with his kids. It's not what he would have chosen. But now, he sees it as God making his path straight, just like the verse says. That's what trust does. It doesn't always give you what you asked for, but it gives you what you need. And the more you trust, the more you see God's version of your life is better than yours, even if it takes a while to understand. Take a moment and think about your own life. Where are you leaning on your own understanding? Is it in your finances, your relationships, your future? Maybe it's time to stop white-knuckling that steering wheel. Maybe it's time to open your hands and say, I don't have to understand this. I just have to trust you. If any of this is hitting home, give this video a like, share it with someone who needs this, and drop a comment. I'd love to hear what part of your life you relearning to trust God with. Now, let's be real. Trust doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean sitting on the couch waiting for heaven to drop a miracle into your lap. Trust means action guided by surrender. You still move, you still work. But your confidence comes from a different place. Not from your own brilliance, but from God's unshakable faithfulness. Let's go back to the verse. In all your ways acknowledge Him. That's not just a prayer before meals or a thank God when things go right. It means bringing God into every room, every conversation, every decision. It means when you're offered that job, you pause and say, God, is this from you? When your relationship hits turbulence, you don't just run or fix. You say, God, lead me through this. Acknowledging Him means inviting Him to sit in the driver's seat. You know what happens when you live like that? Even when the path is hard, it's straight, not necessarily easy, not pain-free, but straight. Because you're not zigzagging through your own plans and shortcuts. You're moving forward with divine direction. Think about a GPS. When you make a wrong turn, it recalculates. God does that too. When you acknowledge Him, He doesn't punish your detours. He guides you back. That's grace. That's trust. That's relationship. Now I want to ask you a question. Not a rhetorical one. A real one. What would change in your life if you actually believed God is better at leading your life than you are? What would happen if you stopped obsessing over timelines and started resting in God's timing? What if you truly believed that your value isn't based on what you accomplish, but on whose you are? The answer to all those questions is the same: peace. That deep, unexplainable peace that shows up even when nothing makes sense. That's the fruit of trust. That's what it looks like to live Proverbs 3:5-6, not as a Pinterest quote, but as a lifestyle. Some of you watching this have been holding on to your understanding for years. You've tried to control every angle, and you're tired. Let this be the moment you say, no more. You don't have to figure it all out. You just have to trust the one who already has. So today, whisper the words, God, I trust you, even when I don't see it, even when I don't feel it. I choose to trust you. And if that prayer is hard, say it anyway. God isn't looking for perfect faith. He's looking for surrendered hearts. Before you go, take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and drop a comment. What's one area of your life where you want to trust God more starting today? Let's keep walking together. And remember, when you trust Him, He doesn't just guide you. He walks beside you every step of the way. Sometimes the path God puts in front of you doesn't make sense until you look back and realize it was the only way. There was a man named Marcus who had grown up hearing Proverbs 3:5-6 his whole life. Sunday school, grandma's fridge magnet, even stitched into a blanket he once got for graduation. But for most of his adult life, those words were just that, words. Until the day his company downsized and he was let go after 15 years. He walked out of that office with a box in his hands and a storm in his soul. How was he supposed to trust God when everything he had built was taken from him in a 5-minute meeting? If you've ever stood in that kind of moment where disappointment hits like a wave, pause now and like this video. Comment what helped you stay grounded in that season. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't. Your story could encourage someone else. Marcus spent the first few days angry, then bitter, then scared. He applied for jobs, rewrote his resume, called old contacts. Nothing. One morning, he opened his Bible in desperation and landed, again, on Proverbs 3:5-6. But this time, he read it differently. Do not lean on your own understanding. And for the first time in years, he whispered a prayer he hadn't said since he was a teenager. God, show me the next step. I'm done trying to figure it out alone. The door didn't open that day, but something cracked open in his heart. Trust started to rise, not the kind that needs all the answers, but the kind that says, even if I don't see the way, I believe there is one. Weeks later, Marcus ran into an old friend at the grocery store who offered him a temporary role consulting for a nonprofit. It wasn't what he had planned. It wasn't flashy. But he said yes. That yes became something bigger. A year later, Marcus was leading that very organization. He'd never imagined it. But God did. That's the miracle of trust. It doesn't always move fast. It doesn't always look like success. But it leads you to places your limited understanding never could. Let's be real for a second. Trusting in God isn't a passive, floaty, just chill kind of faith. It's gritty. It's active. It's sometimes uncomfortable. It means you take steps before you see results. It means obeying when it doesn't make logical sense, like forgiving someone who doesn't deserve it, or being generous when your bank account says otherwise, or letting go of a relationship because God said no, even though your heart says, but what if? That's what trust looks like. It's doing the right thing even when it costs you something, because you believe in the one who sees the whole picture. And here's the part most people skip. Trusting God also means trusting His timing. That's often the hardest part, because we live in a world of now, but God works in seasons. He is not just concerned with what you want. He's shaping who you're becoming. Sometimes the delay is the development. And when you lean on Him, when you acknowledge Him in everything, He uses even the waiting rooms of life to prepare you for what's next. So ask yourself, where have you been rushing God? Where have you been saying, hurry up, instead of, have your way? When you change that posture, you'll start to see doors open, not because you forced them, but because you waited on the one who opens the right ones at the right time. Let's talk about fear. Because that's what blocks trust most of the time, right? Fear of failing, fear of loss, fear of rejection. And the lie that fear tells us is this: you have to take control or everything will fall apart. But Proverbs 3:5-6 invites you into something completely different. It says, release the pressure. Hand over the weight. You're not the architect of your own life. God is. And when He builds it, it stands strong. There's something powerful about people who walk with that kind of trust. They're unshaken by delay, not because they don't care, but because they know God's not late. He's precise. Think of Mary, Jesus' mother. Her whole life flipped upside down by a message from an angel. None of it made sense. She was young, unmarried, not in control. and yet she said, "Let it be to me according to your word." That's Proverbs 3:5-6 in action. Complete trust, even in uncertainty. So the question isn't, can I trust God? The question is, will one? Because He's already proven His faithfulness. The cross is proof. The empty tomb is proof. Every moment He's carried you this far is proof. Now it's your turn to respond. Will you lean into trust or into fear? If you're still with me, and this message has stirred something in your spirit, please give it a like. It helps spread this truth to more people. Drop a comment below. What part of your life are you surrendering today? And don't forget to subscribe, because this community is all about real faith, real struggles, and real stories of redemption. Let's land on something deeply practical. How do you build this kind of trust daily? Start with your mornings. Before you check your phone, before the noise of the world floods in, pause and say, "Lord, I trust you today. Guide my steps. Help me not lean on what I think I know." Open the Word, not for information, but for alignment. Let God's voice be louder than your worries. When decisions come, small or big, make it a habit to ask, "God, what do you want here?" It might feel awkward at first, but over time, that habit becomes a reflex. And that reflex becomes a rhythm. And that rhythm leads to peace. Finally, remember this: God doesn't want your perfection. He wants your presence. He is not asking you to never struggle with doubt. He is asking you to bring that doubt to Him. So whether you're standing at a crossroads, walking through pain, or just feeling distant from God, know this: when you trust Him with all your heart and refuse to lean on your own understanding, He will make your path straight. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but He always keeps His promises. So keep walking, keep trusting, and never forget, you're not walking alone. If this video brought you closer to that truth, tap the like button, leave your reflection in the comments, and hit that subscribe button so we can keep walking in faith together. You are seen, you are held, and you are being led, even now. Faith doesn't eliminate questions, but it knows where to take them. There's something powerful about facing the unknown and still choosing to trust. That's what makes Proverbs 3:5-6 more than just comforting. It makes it life-saving. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Not halfway, not with conditions, with all. It sounds simple, until life gets messy. It's easy to trust when things are going your way. But what about when the plan falls apart? What about when you prayed and nothing changed? What about when your heart is broken and silence is the only thing heaven sends back? That's where real trust begins. In the quiet, in the waiting, in the not knowing. A young man named Chris understood this. He was full of dreams, ready to launch his own business, confident that this was the plan God had placed in his heart. But deal after deal fell through. Investors backed out. He gave everything and still came up short. And for a while, it felt like maybe God had forgotten him. But Chris didn't give up. Every morning, he read Proverbs 3:5-6 out loud. Not as a magic fix, but as a reminder. This is what I believe, even when it's hard to feel it. Over time, his posture shifted. He started asking God to lead instead of begging Him to bless what he'd already planned. He stopped leaning on his understanding and leaned into surrender. And the moment he stopped striving, new opportunities appeared. ones he never would have seen if he kept forcing the old doors open. Like this video if you've ever had to let go of what you thought was best. Drop a comment sharing a time you had to pivot in faith. And if this story is speaking to your spirit, hit that subscribe button now. Here's the thing most people miss. Trusting God doesn't mean staying passive. It means moving forward with open hands. You still plan, you still work, you still dream. But you don't grip the outcome. You hold it lightly and say, God, if you want to change this, I trust you. That shift changes everything. You stop obsessing over results and start paying attention to obedience. You stop asking, why is this happening? And start asking, who are you shaping me to become? God cares more about your heart than your comfort. And trust is how He stretches that heart, not to break it, but to expand it, to make room for deeper peace, deeper strength, deeper purpose. If this is connecting with you, pause and hit like. We're not just here to hear stories, we're here to live them. Share in the comments how this verse has challenged or carried you. And if you haven't already, subscribe to keep this kind of encouragement coming into your life. Some of the most incredible breakthroughs begin with disappointment. Why? Because disappointment forces us to decide, will I still believe God is good, even when life doesn't look like it? That's what trust looks like. It's Job saying, though he slay me, yet will I hope in him. It's Mary saying, let it be to me according to your word. It's Jesus saying, not my will, but yours be done. Real trust isn't proven in answered prayers, it's proven in surrendered ones. Sometimes we get angry at God, not because He failed us, but because He didn't follow our script. But God is not a genie. He's a Father. He doesn't exist to fulfill our plans. He invites us into His. And His plan? It's always better. It might be harder. It might take longer, but it is always filled with love. Always rooted in grace. Always pointing us to a life that is fuller and freer than anything we could build on our own. So the question isn't, can you trust God? The real question is, will you? Because the offer is always there. Not for a perfect path, but for a straight one. Not for a life without pain, but a life with presence. Not for total control, but for deep peace. And that peace that makes no sense, peace that's stronger than chaos, that is the gift of trust. Let this message sink in. Like the video now if it stirred something in you. Comment how this verse is showing up in your life today. And subscribe if you want to keep growing in this kind of grounded, real, unshakable faith. There is something beautiful about a path that you didn't plan, especially when you look back and realize it was better than anything you could have mapped out yourself. That's the promise in Proverbs 3-6. He will make your path straight, not perfect, not painless, but straight, meaning purposeful, guided, secure. Sometimes God straightens the path by clearing obstacles, but most often He straightens it by straightening us, by softening our pride, by opening our hands, by shifting our vision. And it's in that process that we become the kind of people who can actually handle the blessing when it comes. If you've ever looked back at a moment you didn't understand, a job you didn't get, a relationship that ended, a dream that didn't take off, and realized later that it was actually protection, that was God straightening your path. The truth is, when you fully trust in the Lord with all your heart, you stop needing all the answers right away. You begin to rest, not because life is easy, but because you know who's holding it. and that kind of rest is powerful. You stop living in fear of the unknown. You stop wasting energy on trying to control everything. You live free. You live light. You live led. But here is the hard part, and also the holy part. God's timing is almost never our timing. He's not late. He's not early. He's right on time. But His clock doesn't run on human anxiety. It runs on divine wisdom. If you're in a season of waiting, wondering, praying, and not seeing answers, hold on. That doesn't mean God is ignoring you. It might mean He's preparing something bigger than you imagined, or preparing you to be ready for it. And sometimes the waiting is the blessing, because it's in the waiting that your roots go deep. Your character gets shaped. Your trust muscles get stronger. Faith is not just believing God can. It's trusting Him even if He doesn't, or at least not yet. So if you're standing in that space right now where the road feels unclear, where your heart feels heavy, where the answers haven't come, I want to remind you of something simple but eternal. God sees you. God hears you. And He's not done writing your story. Take a breath. Let go of what you can't control. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge Him, even when the road is confusing. Especially when it's confusing, and He will direct your paths. That's not just a verse to memorize. That's a truth to live by. A truth that anchors you when everything around you shifts. A truth that builds peace inside chaos. A truth that invites you to stop striving and start resting in the arms of a God who never fails. If this message met you where you are today, please take a moment to like this video. It helps more people find hope when they need it most. Comment below and share how Proverbs 3:5-6 has shaped your life. We'd love to hear your story. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss more content like this. Because here's the bottom line. Trusting God isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. And every step you take in faith is a step closer to the life He created you to live. So don't give up, don't look back, and don't do it alone. We're walking this path together, one trust-filled step at a time. Thanks for watching, and may your heart find peace in the One who never leaves your side.